Well, I grew up on a small farm in south central Pennsylvania where I had Angus beef cattle is the main animal that we raised when I was growing up, and was able to show them in the 4-H program, which is similar to FFA but community-based rather than school-based. So I learned a lot that way. But what a lot of students don't know about me is I also grew up on a family landscaping business. So when I eventually roundabout ended up at Saul, I very easily could have ended up in the horticulture program, but the space was available and the need was there for animal science. So I really learned a lot of the sheep aspect on the job and went to some extra trainings and workshops to get up to speed on the sheep. And then over the last 22 years or so have learned a lot alongside my students. And I take learning that we do every year forward into the following year of students. Personally, I find the sheep extremely stressful, and I wouldn't be doing this if there weren't students who had opportunities to learn about working with animals and about themselves. So that's really why I like working with the sheep, with the students. I work with the sheep because it's part of the gig. And working with animals has a lot of ups and downs. Being able to see students go from being nervous to even be in the pen with animals to being confident about diagnosing and caring for the animals on a day-to-day basis is worth getting up every morning to be here. You have to be very attentive to subtle things. One of the sort of myths or legends about sheep is that they die very easily, and more recent philosophies about that is that really sheep are pretty tough animals and they tend to hide their symptoms. So if an animal's getting sick, you need to pay attention to what they look like when they're healthy and when they're normal so that you can spot the little differences. And if you're standing in the corner playing on your phone, instead of taking the opportunity to watch the animals when you've got that opportunity here and pretty much nowhere else in your school day, does anybody have the chance to learn what is normal behavior and to be able to spot abnormal behavior? So I think that's the most important thing. And then if you make changes to things like feed or medication regimens and stuff, then it becomes important to keep records and be able to track trends and differences. So, hello. Every animal is different, but you can build your knowledge base over time from animal to animal so you get better at spotting problems and preventing them. So one of the really cool things that we've developed over the years, before we had this beautiful barn, we did lambing for many, many years in basically an open-sided shack that's over the hill here. And about 10 years ago, I was talking to one of the tech people in the district who just happened to come visit Saul, and he had a background of having known an FFA program when he was in high school in New Jersey. And I said, would there be any way to put a camera in the barn so that I could check on the sheep from home? And he started to think about it, and he came up with the ability to put a camera signal out through the network. And then that just kind of took off, and I started to hear that there were people at the central office that would keep the lamb cameras on at their desk, and people would gather, and the receptionist at the YMCA over the hill would be watching the lamb cams, and elementary schools from Texas were reaching out to me to see about what was happening with the lamb cam. And it really opened the door to a lot of people in the community being able to participate, and a lot of our alumni could then participate. So during lambing season, we have the availability for students and alumni to sign up for camera shifts. That used to be, I would run in to school at 3 in the morning to see if there was a ewe in labor. But now there's people who are the support system. So it's really neat to see that community develop and grow over the last 20 years. So I can actually, sleep extended periods of time in between sheep, and I also have coworkers and graduates who are very capable with complicated deliveries, and to be able to call on them for support when we do have difficulties, because it's not all fuzzy, bouncy babies all the time. We do occasionally have deliveries that go bad, or lambs that don't make it, or sick moms and things like that. Yeah, there are a limited number of spots. The way the funding has worked over the years has changed. Different youth employment programs have sort of been the umbrella programs over the years. Years ago, I had one student farmer that would do weekends and holidays throughout the school year. And then we started to get the summer intern programs. So we typically have 2 students that work with the horses, the sheep, and some of the cattle sometimes, and we usually have 2 that work with the dairy cows also, and I think we also have 2 with the small animals as well. So they kind of specialize, but then there's certain days when there might be a bigger project, like a fence clearing project or moving hay into a barn, where they might call multiple interns in from different areas to team up on bigger projects. This year has been very peaceful. We're halfway though. So 4 of the ewes have delivered, 4 of them still need to deliver, and I'm expecting them anytime later this week probably, and into the next week maybe. The way this year went is Wednesday night last week, we saw that a ewe was in labor on camera around 9 o'clock. Ewe went into labor, and we needed to help because the lambs were a little out of position. So there was some minor repositioning, but it was midnight, 1 a.m. before we were home that night. Thursday afternoon, fortunately, doesn't always happen, we had 2 deliver during class. That was one of our biggest lambs. Normally they're around 11 pounds. This one was 14 pounds. The babies are calling their moms. But they were, those were more tangled up. And then we had another delivery that same evening around 7 p.m. That wasn't very complicated. And then we had our 4th delivery was Saturday morning at daybreak. I love daybreak deliveries because you have all day if there's any problems. It's much more reassuring to deal with animal problems in the daylight. But that was the first half, and it was a bit of a whirlwind. Now we're in a little couple of days of quiet before we do it again, and hopefully we don't have any losses in the second half. We've had all twins so far, and we have an even number of male and female lambs, which is also kind of a statistical anomaly to have them come out even. They don't always.